Hi guys, I'm here to answer some questions that I get asked a lot while travelling on the road and doing my tours and tiki touring around New Zealand in my mobile home. So watch on. And so the most frequently asked questions, it was hard to choose because when you live like I do or travel like I do, you get asked a lot of questions because it's not how everybody travels and sees the country and where they stay. So I've picked out the ones that came to mind and I will answer those now. Now the first one is usually, is your truck hard to drive? Because my truck is a 1977 Bedford KDLC 5 and it doesn't have power steering. So when I first bought it, because I had a little wee bus first, I had a little 7-metre Isuzu bus first, which had power steering and all sorts of things. The first time I drove this, I was petrified. I really thought I wasn't going to be able to get it around a roundabout. I was trying to get around and I thought, oh no, what have I done? You know, I love this truck, but was this a good idea? So, but over the years, I mean, I've had this one for 14 years now. It's become easier and easier. So it's just what I drive now. I'm actually quite awful if I get into a car now. I'm really heavy footed and I'm a bit rough on them until I learn to tone it down and be a bit gentler again. So it depends on what you get used to, alright? To me it's just normal. This is what I drive. The only time it's really hard is when trying to get into tight parking spots and things like that. Once you're on the open road or even travelling at 30 or 40 kilometres an hour, just getting going, the steering really becomes quite light. So it is only in those tight manoeuvres that it's hard work and you really have to swing on the steering wheel. So yeah, it is a relative thing depending on what you're used to. If you jumped into this out of a very modern truck, you'd probably get a heck of a fright. But if you're used to it, it's not bad. Okay, and number 2 is, where do you stay? Do you always stay at camping grounds? I get asked that all the time, and no, I don't. I very rarely go to camping grounds. It's a bit of a treat when I do because you have full access to showers that, you know, you can have longer showers than you can in a vehicle that has a water tank and limited water quantities. So it is nice to treat yourself, and washing machines and things like that are quite fun too, to just have there rather than go to a laundromat. So yeah, but not very often. Most of the time I'm either freedom camping, which you can do in a lot of places in New Zealand as long as you're self-contained. I got the self-containment certificate because it just means you don't get any hassles, you don't get annoyed by anyone, and it's not that hard to get. You've got to have a toilet and tanks and basically contain your waste. There's a couple of other funny little things on it, but those are your primary ones that you contain your effluent. So yeah, I do have that, which makes it easier to stay in freedom camping spots, and I'll also park up at some clubs that welcome people to stay overnight and places like that. So yeah, and sometimes I park at the motor caravan parks because they're quite often quite handy, they're quite reasonable, and if you're a member of the Motor Caravan Association you can stay at them and it's quite cheap. So I find them quite convenient, and it might be an age thing. I didn't care so much when I was first on the road, but now I actually can't be bothered with hoons doing wheelies next to me in the middle of the night and things like that. I just don't even want to deal with that. So I'd just rather park somewhere maybe where there's a gate and, you know, that doesn't happen. So that was question 2. Question 3 is about my delightful little companion Serafina, and people are always like, doesn't she run away? And no, she doesn't. Sometimes she gets a bit tricky. If she knows we're about to drive and she doesn't really want to, she'll go and sit under a bus somewhere and refuse to come out, or sit under a bush and hide. But The longest it usually is to wait for her is under an hour. I just go and have another cup of coffee, and she gets fed up with it and comes out. If I know I have to be somewhere early, I just keep her in or let her out. Another classic one that's making me smile right now, because I lit my fire today to try and get some washing dry and dry out the inside of the space, and it's stifling hot in here actually right now. Don't you get cold? No, I don't. I have a very good efficient log burner that's made in Denmark or Norway or somewhere, and it keeps it toasty warm in here. Actually a bit too warm sometimes, especially in spring and autumn. It's, you know, sometimes a little bit over the top, but I do like the fact that I have a very dry space. My little bus only had an LPG heater, and in the morning the windows would be running with condensation, and it was just horrible. So I think a dry environment is much healthier, so to me that's important. So yeah, and I find some of my wood, I pick up pine cones and stuff, and some of it I buy because it's heating. So yeah, no, I don't get cold. What else have I got here? Where does your mail go? That's question 5. People ask me whether I have anywhere my mail goes, and yes I do. It's pretty hard to live life and not have your mail go anywhere. But my mailing address is actually hosted by a company called Private Box in Wellington, and all my mail goes there, and they either send it on for me. Yes, there's a charge, but it's not expensive. They either send it on for me, or if it's something urgent I can get them to scan it, and then I can download the PDF and read it. So the mail is sorted. Where do you get water? Yes, some people ask me that. They think I must buy bottled water. No, I've got really good sized tanks in this vehicle. It was one of the things that really appealed to me about it. I've got 370 litres of fresh water and 370 litres of grey water, which is wastewater. So I get a week out of that easy. I mean, it's not empty when I refill. I just fill it up once a week. And the kitty cat's here. Hello. Oh no, don't muck around up there, please. No. Oh, not very helpful. Here she is. And wet. Little wet cat. Okay, I've totally lost my train of thought here. Okay, the water. So some public dump stations have a separate water tap, which is really good. I would never fill up with water from the one that people use to wash down their toilets and their toilet waste. And I have actually seen tourists do their dishes in those places where people empty their toilets and things like that, and you really shouldn't do that. It's, yeah, you could get quite sick from doing that. So no, a lot of them now have a separate tap, and if not, some gas stations let you get water, or camping grounds, or I never ever had a huge problem getting water. How do you get a certificate of fitness? Basically the same way as everybody else. It's really no different. It's a vehicle, and they check for exactly the same things. Well, less things actually, because it's got less things. It doesn't have power steering that can leak. It doesn't have a lot of other things that can go wrong. So there's actually less for them to look at. But they basically test for soundness, structural, soundness, make sure all the running gear is nice and tight and nothing's falling off, and no big rust holes, and brakes and lights and all of those sort of things. And the back of it, well, that has to be safety glass, so, but that's not a problem. So, but apart from that, they don't come into the back. That's actually nothing to do with them. The only place the testing officers go is into the cab. And so far I haven't had too many issues. I think sometimes because there is less to go wrong with it, it'll get through quite easily, as long as the brakes are good and things like that, and you haven't got loose ball joints or anything like that. You're generally pretty good. So yeah. Where do I shower? That's younger people who ask me that one usually. Where do you have a shower? No, all people on the road smell bad. No, it's not true. I have a shower in here. Yes, it's I do conserve water when I have a shower. It means you turn it on, wet yourself down, turn it off, do all your shampoo and soap, and then turn it back on and rinse off. But you get just as clean as any other shower, and you just don't stand in it for as long, because otherwise you've got to go and fill your water tank again. What's my favourite place is number 9. So that's a really hard one, because there are so many beautiful places I love in New Zealand, and I've travelled around New Zealand so much. One of my favourites is up at the, what's it called now? Name's gone. Hang on, I'll mention. Mahi is one of them, the Kaipara Harbour. Kaipara Harbour, I just love it. I know it's kind of swampy and has mangroves and things, but I just love it. It reminds me of the Marlborough Sounds. It's got the stillness, so it's quite beautiful rather than big crashing waves. But I also love the big crashing waves on the west coast. I'd find it very, very hard to choose, because I also love the mountains. People often think I'm a bit crazy because I quite often spend time in the mountain areas in winter, but I do have good heating, so it's not an issue, and it's really quite stunning, and you get those crisp, clear, beautiful days, so it's quite fun, and it's quite nice to sort of stomp around in a cracking frost in the morning. So yeah, favourite place? No, not really. I have lots. Number 10 is more about my technology. How do you work online and get internet while you're travelling? That used to be a lot harder than it is now. I used to be really limited on how many gig of internet, of bandwidth I had, but it has improved hugely, because they have rural broadband now, which I get 120 gig a month, which is plenty for uploading YouTube and doing everything I do, doing email readings, working online. It's heaps. I also watch a bit of YouTube, so it's heaps. I mean, a few years ago, I had 6, so I had to be pretty careful that it lasted me a month. But nowadays, you have this rural broadband, which actually has really good stable reception too. Quite often that works better than my phone. I have reception on that unit, which is a little modem, but my phone will be absolutely rubbish there. So, and I can put an aerial on it if I really want to, but I haven't really felt the need yet. So no, that works okay. Power wise, I have solar. I have plenty of solar. I have good storage batteries. I've got an inverter to run all my gear and charge everything. So I've got about 450 watts of solar, about 400 amp hours of storage batteries, and a 3000 watt inverter. And yes, if I get several wet days in a row, I might run a little bit low on power, so I'll then drag out my little tiny quiet Honda generator and run that for a while and give everything a charge up. I don't like generators. I find they're pretty obnoxious, but that one's actually pretty quiet and doesn't seem to bother anyone, and it's tolerable if you have to use it. It gets very little use though, so it should last me like forever, because I'm not going to wear it out. So those are the 10 most frequently asked questions that I get about working on the road and touring and travelling, and how I make all of that work. So if you have any more questions, put them down below. Other things you'd like to know, because I can do another one of these further down the track. And please like and subscribe. This channel is one I haven't done much with yet, but I didn't want to put all this stuff into my tarot card for the week kind of channel, because I think the two, people who watch that don't necessarily want to see this, and vice versa. So I've decided to have this one as a separate situation. So anyway, see you next time.